the freeze. To the freeze. Who's going to believe what I say? Would you believe if someone came into this room right now and said, see, pick someone who's, who's public figure who's died lately, and say, oh, so-and-so's just alive. Some dude in white in the tomb told me to come tell you. That's where my disbelief and my eyes would look like this. And then to say Jesus is alive when everybody has seen him die. Is that believable? No, it's not believable. It's not believable. And he's going to meet you in Galilee? Well, it's not believable that he's alive. So why would he meet me in Galilee? That's not believable either. So it's just piling one thing on top of another. And I'm sorry, I surely understand why Mary said nothing. Why Mary absolutely said nothing. That's where the Gospel of Mark ends. Who would believe the crazy talk? So, for a while, Mary and a disciple of Jesus who received Jesus' care and healing. This is who Mary is. Healed of 7 demons, right? That's what Griffin read. Healed of 7 demons. She's a disciple. She's been following Jesus around since she was healed. She's financially helped Jesus. And this disciple who knows of the power of Jesus' healing, has experienced that, will not say a word. Will not say a word. Her mouth is shut. And yet, sometime between verse 8 and the parenthetical coming of verse 9, something happens. Something happens in that relationship. Something happens, and in that inability to talk and that freezing that occurred, she goes to the companions and she begins to tell the story of what happens. She shares her witness, I can only imagine. She goes and she says, okay, so we were walking, we had the spices, we turned to this corner and everything was crazy, and this is what we saw, and this is what they said, and now, and they told me that I'm supposed to come and I'm supposed to tell you, and I've seen Jesus, and all of this is happening, and to the ears of the other disciples, again, OMG, except a little bit different. Like, really? And they don't believe her either. So you have Mary, who doesn't want to say anything, finally says something, and then nobody believes her. That's a great way to start Jesus in the book. Mark is the first book that was ever written. So it still sounds crazy. And Mark ends with the faith of one who has seen and believes, and maybe the disbelief of those who haven't seen and don't believe. So you end up with, the end of Mark is just disbelief all over the place. And the thing I like about the end of Mark is that it sets us in this tension of seeing and believing without seeing. And we have two sets of disciples that demonstrate both of those, that disbelief that comes in both of those. The disciples have to go and see before they believe. Where's faith? Where's faith? It doesn't, to me, this text and the questions that I have, and maybe some of the cynicism that I bring to it, is where's faith? If the text ends in disbelief and sets that tension of seeing and believing is seeing, and I have to see to believe, and even the disciples have to see to believe, where's their faith? I kind of like it. I kind of like disciples that are upended, and disciples that some see and believe, and some, don't really want to believe until they see, and they set up that tension, and I live in that tension. Don't we live in that tension? Don't we need to see to believe? Are we not living in a world that says, if you can't prove it, we've got it all over in the news. I mean, what news do you believe anymore if you can't prove it? Any kind of political thing that goes on in television, now you've got fact-checking. And you're only going to believe the fact-checking. And this person has this many correct facts, and this person has... It's all over our world. We have to prove something exists. In my eyes, it is a lot easier to believe if I can see it. But that's not the Christian walk. That's not what we as Christians are invited to do. We as Christians are invited to believe without seeing. And that walk is difficult. The challenge of faith in a culture of cynicism is making and taking the steps to believe what your eyes cannot see. And there is so much about Christianity right now that faith involves believing when you can't see. Like we are supposed to love everybody. We are supposed to be a neighbor to everybody. We are supposed to live nonviolent lives. That's what Jesus invites us to do. But there is hardly a space in the world that you see that. Or that's announced, that's witnessed to. You have to believe and actually maybe go find it. It's Church of the Brethren, Anabaptist, right? It's living the life that is countercultural. Culture says you have to see to believe. Faith invites us to believe. Faith invites us to believe even if we can't see. Living a life of counter-cultural involvement. I really would like to see a lot more of that, and I think we have that here in our lives, at least in a faith community that reaches out to people that are marginalized, and we bring love. We bring neighborhood. We bring acceptance. We bring an accompaniment walk. We're not telling people that this is the way they have to do. We are accompanying like Jesus did. Mary, in all of her disbelief, chose to continue to believe, even though she couldn't see. She might have been stunned and she might have been frozen, but she continued to walk each and every day, maybe with eyes that had disbelief. Maybe our new saying as Christians should be that biblical quote, "I believe, help my unbelief." Because there is unbelief so present. There is no way to prove Jesus' resurrection. We are not going to see that literally. The way we prove it, if we have to see it, is in the lives of each of us. But we believe because we know the story, because we know the life that Jesus lived, because we have this biblical story that shares acceptance and love. Faith in a culture of cynicism invites us to be countercultural and to live lives that are full of love, full of grace, full of mercy. Amen. invite you to our benediction hymn. It's a hymn of Easter. You may stand. So let's come, ye faithful, raise the strain, and then we'll share together in benediction. Let's join our voices, proclaiming it. I invite you to be seated as we share in our postlude that becomes the prelude for the coming week. May you leave this place meeting God on the journey in belief, seeing, or unbelief, wondering. Amen. Circumstances that were not a part of their their case previously are coming up now. So just keep them in your prayers as they continue that legal battle. And Abdul has his trial, his case, sorry. Feels like a trial.
It's called a trial.
He has his coming up in the beginning of September. His case is coming before court. So yeah, it is a trial. So we want to keep him in our prayers. Right. Any other joys, concerns?
I'll give another joy.
Good.
Our 10-year-old twins have independently read books to me by Zoom recently.
Yay!
Now, you know, granted, beginning books,
Sure.
8-pagers, but it is so exciting to see their progress.
And yay, Judy, for helping that process,
Yay, Cheryl,
teaching.
for the books.
And yay, Cheryl, for the books. And yay, Linda, for the support. And just yay for the congregation to continue that ministry. It's amazing. All right. Well, as we bring all of that into our spirits and into our hearts, I invite us to set another tone for prayer as we share in the hymn "Healer of Our Every Ill," recognizing God's presence in healing. Let's join together in that song.
Glory
us pray together. Healer, healer. We are a world in such need of healing, whether it be within ourselves for the alienations that we feel, whether it be for our community and the alienations that are present there, whether it be for our nation and the alienations that are there, or globally. Oh God, you are our healer. Speak to our hearts in ways that we can come along with you on this journey and be healers as well. To be people of a faith, a part of a community that engages in reconciliation. Open our hearts so that we might know, we might be aware, we may be sensitive to those space and places where your life and love can come alive. We invite you into our lives, O Lord. We invite you to teach us ways of discipleship, ways of healing, ways of another way of living that invites us to a nonviolent way of life, a nonviolent way of life that demonstrates the agape love of Jesus. Be with us in our walks. Allow us to accompany one another and to be accompanied one with another. Amen. As we think about stewardship and our gifts that we give to this faith community, God shares great gifts with us. And this morning's time of stewardship recognizes those gifts. The moments of awe that we have throughout the week that bring praise to our hearts, the moments of beauty that we experience throughout the week that bring thoughts of God's glory, the gifts of daily breath that we breathe in that remind us of God's care and concern, the abundance of the resources that we have that bring our lives peace. All of this we acknowledge this day. We acknowledge these gifts and seek to respond to what God has given us with joy, with gratitude, with abundance. So may we all honor God and provide care for each other as we come to our time of sharing. You're welcome to bring your gift up at this point, at the conclusion of worship, or just whenever, and think and consider the gifts that you already share with this congregation. Let's join together. I invite you to a song of response. Now thank we all our God, verse number 1, and let's share in our thankfulness together.
The resurrection. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Solomon brought the spices so that they could embalm him. Very early on Sunday morning, as the sun rose, they went to the tomb. They worried out loud to each other, "Who will roll back the stone from the tomb for us?" They looked up and saw that it had been rolled back. It was a huge stone, and walked right in. They saw a young man sitting. On the right side, dressed in all white, they were completely taken aback, astonished. He said, "Do not be afraid. I know you were looking for Jesus, the Nazarene. The one they nailed to the cross has been risen up. He's here no longer. You can see for yourselves that the place is empty. Now on your way. Tell his disciples and Peter that he is going on ahead to Galilee. You'll see him there exactly as he said." They got out as fast as they could, besides themselves, their heads swimming. Stunned, they said nothing to anyone. After rising from the dead, Jesus appeared early on Sunday morning to Mary Magdalene, who he had delivered from 7 demons. She went to his former companions, now weeping and carrying on, and told them when they heard her report that she had seen him alive and well, they did not believe her.
Thank you, both to Elizabeth and Griffin. I think I've managed to miss you all in worship leadership until today. Good job. I love it. All right. So, you heard the full ending of the Gospel of Mark. Some of you may be aware that that's not the way the Gospel always stood. You see in the scripture text that the last several verses are parenthetical. So it's kind of like, oh, let's add this let's add this. So, several years later, I don't know, maybe they didn't like the way Mark ended. Maybe they needed some closure. Maybe they needed something else. But and they probably did. But Mark, at the very earliest, ends with verse 8. Kind of unsettling, if you think about it. So what I'd like today we're looking at and thinking about Mary Magdalene. And I would invite you to either concentrate on the picture up there, or look at the picture that's on the front of your bulletin, and just maybe call out what you notice in that picture. What grabs you in that picture? Elizabeth, what do you notice?
It looks like behind the girl.
Uh-huh.
It looks like there's a fire behind.
Really, it does, doesn't it? It looks like there's a fire behind. And this is Mary, the Mary that Griffin was looking and reading about. What grabs other folks?
Disbelief
Disbelief. Where do you see disbelief?
in her eyes and basically her facial expression.
Okay, her eyes and her countenance. Just look at disbelief. Anything else grab anybody? In her head, the picture just kind of has this image of her mind going, OMG. If she were texting, that's what she texts, right?
Yeah, there we go.
That's the text message. Are there any other text messages? That means it have to be 140 characters or less. That's Twitter.
Speechless.
Speechless. Okay. All right. Fear?
A little fear.
A little fear. Uh-huh. Yeah. I imagine, thank you. I imagine this portrait embodying all of the emotions of Mary as she approaches the tomb. It's kind of like, they're walking along, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of like they turn a corner, right? I don't know if there was actually a corner to turn, but it feels to me like they turn a corner, and all of a sudden they're bombarded by the unexpected. And as she approaches the tomb, her body, her mind, and her spirit are bombarded with all these stimuli, and that really make no sense. They're senseless to her, right? I mean, you come around, she expects the tomb to be closed with a stone, and that's not there. She expects to step into the tomb, and she expects the body to be there. Well, that's not there. And then there's this dude standing on the right that she certainly didn't expect to encounter. So I think you all picked it up in the picture of this artist. The sense of confusion, the sense of fear, the sense of, oh my God, or a text, he's not here, there's this angel dude. Trying to put that all together, and the questions that arise deep within her as she tries to make sense and organize what has been unfolding around her. And if you put yourself there, questions like, how did that stone get moved? That's not supposed to be there. The light, where's it coming from? The young man, who is he? Where did he take the body? Where's Jesus? And then the message to go tell Peter. Tell Peter what? What's Peter going to believe out of this mess? You want me to go tell Peter and the others that he, and I'm assuming you mean Jesus, that he is going to go ahead of them into Galilee, and that Jesus will see them there, exactly as he said. I don't remember anybody telling me that Jesus was going to meet me in Galilee. Where'd that come from? I mean, there's just so much incomprehensibility, if that's even a word. If it's not, I just made it up. And to ask her to deliver a message that made absolutely no sense. That's the message that's in this face. That's the message that's in those eyes. And as Mary walks away, and with those who are with her, their heads are spinning. They are stunned. And with the, you've heard of the fright, flight, freeze? I think this is a really good example of fright, being scared and disoriented with everything that's happened, and then that fright that comes from that's etched into her. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, cynicism, right? Is this really? And then from the fright to the flight, let me just get out of here. Wait for our worship leaders.
Yeah, okay, so I have an announcement. Coming up in about a month, we have the Kale Festival on campus, and it is September 19th.
18th.
It's a Saturday. 18th.
Yeah.
And our church participation will be, like, what are we calling it? A rest area?
Relaxation.
Yeah, respite, relaxation, little space that we're going to make with a blanket and some books and some water and
Whatever else you want to put on.
And so what I'm calling for is I need volunteers to come a little early that day and set up, and then volunteers who will just hang around it for an hour or two. The whole thing is set between 10 and 2, so if you could stay for 1 or 2 hours. And so let me know if you'd be willing to help out with that.
Great.
Yes.
And those who can be there right at 10 will get to enjoy 15 minutes of our guitar players.
Oh, great.
Singing K-A-L-E, Kale, and she'll be eating yummy kale when she comes. And other hits such as that.
She'll be
Eating yummy kale when she comes. Munch, munch.
Oh, munch.
And there are 7 verses that they've made
Whoa,
up.
7!
Including kale ice cream.
1 verse a day. It's a week thing.
Well,
Cool.
so anyway, so I know that the kids would enjoy having an audience, because also Alan Ridley has said for me to go ahead and give the kids their guitar certificates that they have earned during the pandemic while there is a gathering to applaud.
Cool.
So that would be awesome.
10 o'clock. I'm
And I
on
missed that
vacation,
one.
so I won't be there.
Oh,
My spirit will be there, but my
Okay.
flesh will not.
well, Facebook Live,
Oh, is it gonna?
that's what it says.
Well, we'll see if I can grab that. That would be cool. All right. So that's September 18th. That is also the kickoff to Peace Week. And Peace Week is going to have a lot of activities in it this year. I just saw a list of what PRC is doing. There's going to be a Tizay around the world. And that'll be held in here on Friday night. There is a Kenyan nonviolence training going on during that week. There is there's a circle, I believe, a peace circle on Tuesday night. So as soon as I get all of that together, as soon as I hear that all, I'll get that all out. So that'll be great. Just to share with you also, I've been part of the Breath of Life circles that have been going on with the church, and the community yoga mindfulness and Shine Your Light, which are 2 local organizations. Shine Your Light works with, part of it is working with dementia care and therapy, and community mindfulness and yoga is our mindfulness movement with Brianna Vargas, and then myself, and we've been working on these Breath of Life circles, and this time we're working on a 10-week series on the invitation to breathe. And it's a Zoom setting, and it was on Wednesday mornings from 10 to 12, and that listing is in your announcements as well. So let's see, if you're interested, there's a presentation for suicide prevention resources and tools. That's happening on the 31st. Our campus sign will hopefully be done by early September. So you'll be able to see that on the wall behind us. If you would like to make a donation to help fund that, we still need, I think, around, I don't know, maybe $300 to fund that.
Did you mention Stewardship Sunday?
Stewardship Sunday is September 19th.
So it's the day right after the Kale Festival?
Oh, I'm not turned on. Now I am. Sorry about that. And so, yeah, that's September 19th. We'll have worship. Bree Stern will be sharing that day. The theme is for those who dream. And
We have a box lunch planned.
yeah, there'll be Rick Pearson is providing or preparing a box lunch for us. So the idea is that we grab the box and head out to the patio and share in some community and fellowship. But the stewardship letter should be going out at the beginning of September. You'll get your pledge cards, and we'll be collecting those on September 19th. There's some pictures over here on the wall of our workday yesterday. We had quite the encounter, and if you head down toward the Friends Center, you will notice quite a different landscape situation down there, beginning with the chair that is no longer soot covered, and we had Salvador and his son Gio in yesterday, and they did a really great job down there. So let's see. I think that's about all of the announcements. Anybody else have any announcements that you want to share? All right. Then I think it is good to be here together. Wednesday at 1 we have our gratitude hour. So if you want to be a part of our gratitude hour, we just kind of get together and share our gratitudes and think a little bit about our blessings, and that's at 1. So if you want to participate, that's on Zoom. Let me know, and I will get the Zoom link to you. That's Wednesday at 1. I think if there's no other announcements, then I'm going to invite us to a time of creating our sacred space. I would invite you to a spiritual exercise, Gordon, as we come together and as we breathe together and we open ourselves. I love the breathing exercise of lifting our arms in praise to God, recognizing the blessings that we have, and then coming down and opening our hearts to God's presence and God's empowering spirit, and then coming back to a position of prayer. So I invite us to, let's do that a couple of times, maybe while you're praying in music, Susan. Let's do that, go ahead. Inhale as your arms go up, opening the day to praise of God. As you bring your arms down, recognizing the opening of your heart and your spirit to God's presence. Inhaling the beauty and the blessings. Offering praise to God. Bringing arms down. Opening your heart and your soul to the presence. join in our opening words that Elizabeth is going to help us with this morning.
We are here to worship and continue on our journey.
In our places of cynicism, in our places of disbelief, in our places of pain.
We are here to worship thinking, guidance, and hope.
In our places of loss, in our places of anger.
We are here to worship, open our eyes, reflecting your grace.
In our places of joy, in our places of faith, in our places of peace.
Open our eyes so that in our lives, when life is difficult and uncertain, we may see the signs of your presence around us.
Open our ears so that in our grief we may receive your messages of comfort and peace.
Open our hearts so that in our lives we may recognize what we can be even though it isn't.
We are here to worship. Christ is alive. I'm going to stand because I can't sit and sing this. Christ is alive, the Christians sing, the cross and every to the sky. Let Jesus rolls with praises ring, His loving hand shall never die. Christ is alive, no longer bound to distant years in Palestine. He comes to claim the world now and conquer every place and time. Christ is alive, the Spirit burns through this and every future age, till all creation learns His joy bestows His love and praise.
Thank you. You can be seated. Thank you for joining me in standing. That just, anytime I sing that, it's just kind of like, I can't sit for that. At least my spirit soars. So it's wonderful to be able to gather here together with each and every one of you. I am glad that I'm here this week and not worried about whether or not I have COVID. So thank you so much for Jay last week who stepped in, and that's a gratitude that I have that this congregation is so supportive. And I really felt that support as I struggled last week trying to, do I? Don't I? Maybe not. So thanks to all of you for being supportive, and to Jay specifically for taking that sermon out of his back hip pocket and moving forward. Other gratitudes, the work day yesterday was absolutely amazing in all aspects. The work, the fellowship, the community, the muscles that aren't really sore yet this morning, I'm thankful for that. For the pizza that we had, for the gift of Salvador and Gio. What a wonderful day. So those are some of the gratitudes that I have. Concerns, I want to make sure we get Jay up there. Jay this morning went into the ER. He has some swelling in his leg, and I believe the concern was whether or not he had some blood clots. So if you're a texter and you would like to I have his phone number, we can get that to you, and then you can text him just to let him know that we're thinking about him. It's one of the blessings of IT, to be able to text those kinds of thoughts and prayers, especially in a time of COVID. All right, what other joys, concerns, celebrations? Cheryl, speak up.
Continued prayers for my friend Al, who went in for his cancer surgery on Tuesday. They opened him up and decided that it had spread too much for them to operate.
Okay.
So now he's recovering from surgery, but he is feeling somewhat hopeless and expressed the fact that he's feeling like our prayers don't work.
So we want to continue to keep Al in our prayers. Cheryl's friend who is struggling, living with cancer, and not able to have the surgery that he thought he would be having. And now he's recovering from surgery and still needing to,
Feeling like it's
hopeless. Yeah, feeling like it's hopeless. Totally understand that, right? Okay, so let's keep Al in our prayers. Elizabeth, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yes. For the joy is that
Can you take that off so I can hear you?
the joy is for the next Monday, Griffin and I are going to our new grade at school.
Yay! And what is your new grade, Elizabeth? Are you in second and Griffin's in sixth? Fifth. Wow, you guys are growing up way too fast. Just so you know that. Not that mom doesn't already know that. But. And then, are you back in school, Margie?
I will be this Wednesday, the 25th.
Okay. So we had one of the teachers stop in here at the office yesterday and chatted with her too about the uncertainties that teachers are facing as they move into in-person classrooms with returning to normal sizes, whatever normal is. That's, moving from 14 students to 25, and those kinds of tensions. So let's keep Nicole Weber, who's the principal here at Rowan, and that whole school, San Diego Unified and beyond, in our prayers this week.
And maybe expanding on that, some of you may have heard in the news that in Texas, where there is a Meet the Teacher night, a parent ripped the mask off of a teacher.
Oh my.
And to me, that is just so mind-boggling, and I'll just leave it there. But, prayers are needed for, I guess, just everyone with the uncertainties and the pressures and the stresses and everything that's going on right now. And the children and the parents and the teachers and administrators all need to be wrapped in prayer. So,
Yep.
yes.
And you have Haiti, that continues to work with the earthquake in Afghanistan,
Yes.
that continues to struggle with new leadership, as well as America that's trying to get folks out, and global concerns with COVID, and take a deep breath, right?
And speaking of COVID, Gloria Sandoval's vaccinated mother is battling COVID now.
Okay.
And so prayers for her and prayers for more to get the vaccine. I'll just go ahead and be political about it.
Don't know that that's political, but okay.
It shouldn't be a political statement, but yes. And I will say a joy is our Sunday morning book group. It continues to be a blessing, and although Zoom can drive us crazy sometimes, it has offered some beautiful, deep, meaningful moments and experiences with each other. And thank everybody for that who's taking part and leadership.
Joanna.
I would like to raise the women and girls of Afghanistan into prayer. Hold them up to the light.
Yes, women and girls of Afghanistan. And I'll just share a report for this week. I heard that Tajuddin and Santiago are kind of revamping their asylum process again. They're going to be getting a new lawyer and some other